I want to welcome you all and thank you for coming to honor and celebrate our grandpa's life. Loss comes with tremendous pain and sorrow. And although we'll take time to grieve, today is a time to celebrate and share memories that we have of Grandpa, and there are many. I hope you'll take time to look at the pictures. I hope you'll take time to reflect on his life and what an impact he had on you. And I hope you'll take time to share a memory that you shared with him. So we're going to have a few people come share, and after that, if you have something to share, then if you could come up and just tell us how you know Grandpa, and how long you knew him, from where you knew him. Today is about celebrating, so let's do that.
Hello everybody, glad you're all here. We all have memories, for sure, and we wouldn't be here. I met Jack about 45 years ago, somewhere around there. He was different from my dad. My dad was kind of a rough, tumble kind of guy. Grew up in a very poor family, southern part of Indiana. And I was a little concerned about meeting my future father-in-law. Most of you know, Pat and I were living together, and Jack was coming out to meet me. And I didn't know what to expect. I only had to go by what my dad would have felt about a guy living with his daughter. And so I was a little, apprehensive. I think I hid in the bathroom for about a half an hour. But when I met him, he had that smile and a gracious manner about him, and accepted me from the start. We had a couple of uncles-in-laws who are my uncles sitting over there, and aunts, who also accepted me into this family. And Jack was like I said, he was different from my father, therefore very different from me. I'm a hunter and a fisherman, raised up that way. And but Jack always had something interesting, and very good conversationalist. One thing he treasured was personal conversation. He wanted to know about you. He wanted to know what you were interested in and what you've done in your life. And a joker and a comedian, and always wanted you to be happy and help me and my family very much through the years. He defended me all the time, always. My wife was not allowed to get the least bit negative about me. Something that I appreciate a great deal from him, and we became pretty good friends. We did share an interest in, I call it skilled trades, carpentry. That was sort of a hobby of his. And then electricity later on. I'm a retired electrician, so we had that in common. And something that we could always share and talk about amongst family members. And I spent many times discussing books that we had to read, and I do too. And would often borrow books from Jack, and he gave me several books over the years. And I valued his friendship and all that he's done for me through the years. And gonna miss him.
So I'm Damon. I'm Grandpa Dad's oldest grandchild. I guess being the oldest grandchild, I probably have more stories, but that's okay. Grandpa Dad taught me how to ride a bike. I rode that bike into a mailbox, and he had to replace the mailbox of the neighbors across the street. Grandpa Dad and Brenda got me lost at a Statler Brothers concert at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. And to this day, I'm still traumatized if I can't find one of my kids or get a hold of one of my kids, so that happened. I went and stayed with Grandpa for a couple weeks when I was out of college. At my first job, I was up in Carmel. I was waiting for my apartment to get ready, and one thing that stuck out is I got up one morning and went out, my car was gone, and I didn't know where it was at. And here came Grandpa in my car, and he had it washed and filled up with gas and had an oil change in it. So it was pretty great. But the lasting legacy of Jack Robison, Grandpa Dad, and every grandparent imparts something on you that you take with you, and it affects all the grandchildren a little bit different. But the lasting legacy of Jack Robison is this. Brendan, you have eggs, club crackers, salt, pepper, not too much pepper in the stomach, butter, and you had to have a mug. Now, when I was younger, the mug would do. Mug would do it, but as I advanced in size and stature, it ended up being a big moose cup with 8 eggs. So the story about Grandpa Dad eggs is he had a production with this, and it was a system, because he was very OCD and systematic. I passed Grandpa Dad eggs on to a colleague of mine at work. I had her over one day for lunch, and I said, I'm going to make you something your kids will love. So I made Grandpa Dad eggs for her. And she ended up making Grandpa Dad eggs for her family. They call them Grandpa Dad eggs. They passed it on to other family members and their family. They all call them Grandpa Dad eggs. About 5 years ago, I had 2 orthopedic surgeries in the period of 1 year. And both times when I woke up from the anesthesia after the surgeries, I was giving the recipe for Grandpa Dad eggs to the nurses, both times. So it's in your subconscious. That's a very deep, recessed memory. That's a good memory. And so both times I gave that recipe out. So that's, to me, the lasting legacy of my grandpa is Grandpa Dad eggs, and it's been passed down, and it'll go on. So that's all I got.
I'll try this. I'm Pat. Jack's oldest daughter, and I guess I was jotting down some stuff right after Dad died. Things that my dad had taught me through the years that still stick with me. One thing is caring for your shoes. My dad had a thing about shoes being pristine at all times, and every year for a while I'd ask him what he wanted for Christmas, and his answer was always cedar shoe trees, and that's what I got him every year until he had enough. I can remember him taking Barb and I, one of the few times we went shopping with him, to the mall to get new school shoes, and we loved the shoes we picked out. They were cool. I think they were penny loafers maybe back then. thought we were going to be so cool at school. We were going to a new school, actually. And Dad, when he takes them up to the counter to pay for them, he's talking to the clerk. And the next thing Barb and I know is we have these plastic, almost like hat shoes, things hammered onto the heel of our shoes that when you went down the hall at school, you heard us coming in our cool shoes. That was kind of devastating. But my dad taught me the difference between mosquito larvae and tadpoles. I went back to the creek one time and we had an empty aquarium in our basement. And I got jars and jars of what I thought were tadpoles and filled the aquarium. And when Dad got home from work, I was all excited to show him my tadpoles. And he looked at those and yelled, "Catherine, why are all these mosquito larvae?" I mean, I had no idea, so I did learn that. My dad had a thing about small appliances, and a real thing. He had numerous coffee makers, but every time that Brenda would go out of state or out of town, and Barb and I would stay with Dad, the first thing on the list he wanted to do was run up to Target and get a new coffee maker, a new toaster oven, whatever he thought of a small appliance. There was no talking him out of it. And I don't know how many of those Brenda returned, but when she came home, she had new small appliances. In Dad's obituary, it was mentioned that he built us a playhouse, and it wasn't just any playhouse, because when Dad did things, he did it big and he did it perfect. Can you guys hear me? Okay. This playhouse had a shingled roof. It had a front porch with a railing. It had windows with shutters, and it had cabinets. Barb and I spent a lot of time in that playhouse. It was pretty neat. Barb and I wanted a swimming pool pretty bad, and we were talking about this the other day, and I cannot remember how this all transpired. But Dad dug by hand a square, a rectangle, Barb said, I thought it was round, about 3 feet, 4 feet deep. It was a mud hole. We filled it up with water, and we thought it was the greatest thing. Because we were relentless over wanting a pool. It wasn't much of a pool. My dad taught me how to swim. That was very, very important to him, that Barb and I learned. Water safety. I remember that Barb had her swimsuit on, and he was teaching her in the bathtub to duck her face, and I was scared and wouldn't do it. And finally I couldn't stand it because my baby sister was doing it and getting a lot of attention because she'd succeeded. So I put my suit on, and that's how I learned not to be afraid of water. He taught us how to actually swim, dive. To this day, those things stick with me. He also taught me how to ride a bike. He kept our training wheels on for as long as he thought was necessary. And then he made a decision that it was time for us to learn without those training wheels. And I remember before he left for work that morning, he took the training wheels off and said, learn to ride your bike without them. And we did. By the time Dad got home from work, we did not want to disappoint him. I thought it was mean at the time. Nothing he did was really mean. He was very strict, very strict. And today I can appreciate why he was. My dad taught me how to drive and how to drive safely. And one thing that I passed on to my children, Dad always told me, when you're coming up to a stop, to look in your rearview mirror, glance in that rearview mirror and see what's coming up behind you and have a way out. That still sticks with me. And the kids. Dad taught me how to drive a stick too. That was trying for both of us. That was tough, yes. But I did it. Dad taught me what a curfew was. Now, I was not an easy teenager to raise, by all means. I was a rebel without a cause. And I can remember a few dozen-ish times getting home from a date 5 minutes late, and Dad would be sitting there, and I would be grounded for weeks. Over 5 minutes. And I know that sounds extremely harsh, but his theory was this, he told me. Leave 5 minutes earlier. Simple. I never quite got that down, but I passed that on to my children. As mean as I thought that was, I was the same kind of mama on a curfew with my kids. I got it. I get what my dad was saying. I found this going through some cards that my dad sent me. And he always wrote something, a letter in it, very personal, and something that made you feel really good about yourself. My daughter, Patsy Jo. The times we spend together mean so much to me. The memories we've shared last forever. And the bond we share will always be there. Just like I'll always be there for you. I love you, your daddy.
I should have told you who I was earlier. I'm Katie. I'm Grandpa's oldest granddaughter. And, oh wait, I took notes. I'm not going to read them. I'm not going to read them, but I pulled out a drafting pencil that Grandpa gave me, and I sharpened it in a draftsman's sharpener. You stick it in and you whirl it around until it's to a perfect tip. And the reason I did that is because the details were important to Grandpa, always. The details in his work, the details in the way that he loved you. And the things that are the coolest that I want to share with you about Grandpa, and I think if you knew him for 5 minutes, you would know this and feel it, is that when he was having a conversation with you, you were the only person person in the room. He wanted to not just ask a casual question, but he wanted to know the details in the answer. And he always would have follow-up questions. And it wasn't like he was challenging you against you. He was challenging you for you. Always. He was a fantastic encourager. And you did always leave him feeling like you could conquer something. That's not an easy trait to have. Not everybody has it. There were a couple things that are groovy about him, that he was so into your interests that he invested in them. And when I was 10, probably, he got me my first briefcase, which was a rather big deal. It was peach in color, and it had gray locks, and in it was a gift card for an office supply store because I was a super nerd even then. And I took many, many, many pretend memos down on Seco Building Division stationery. He also had this sneaky side to him, and the sneaky side usually involved sweets. And they had a freezer, and Grandpa taught me to love Rocky Road ice cream. And although Boop, which is what we call her, Brenda, although Boop probably knew every move we were making, it sure did feel like we were sneaking. And he carried that on with my children. Ella was telling me earlier today that he used to keep he would tell her it was their little secret, and they would, he taught her how to make root beer floats. So again, about sweets. He took me for, well, it wasn't just about me. I think my sister was probably there too, but we went to get ice cream, and Boop. We went to get ice cream, and he bought me, I wanted a strawberry sundae, so it was huge. And he just thought it was hilarious that I was going to eat that whole strawberry sundae. And he said, if you finish that strawberry sundae, I'll buy you a banana split. Never to turn down a challenge, I finished that strawberry sundae and got a banana split. I had never had one. I thought it was the coolest thing. And then I proceeded to eat that banana split. And I can hear his laugh today at me finishing that. I mean, what a hoss. He just couldn't believe it. He also gave me my first toolbox. So when I say it's in the details, I spent about 4 hours one New Year's Eve really frustrated at a drip in my bathroom sink, and I failed miserably at trying to repair that drip. So I knew the next morning I needed to call Grandpa, and I did, and he knew exactly how to fix it, and there he came. He didn't just talk me through it, and taught me how to fix that sink. It was really just a simple O-ring I was missing, and some plumber's tape. It's really important when you're working with plumbing. But it was in the details of it, so he gave me a toolbox that day, and an old pocket knife that he used, and it wasn't used as a pocket knife, but he told me that it was to a perfect point, and that the smallest screws could be unscrewed with that pocket knife, and he is right. I've used it many times for that reason. It stays right in my toolbox. I think it's important to mention that you felt big love from Grandpa, and that big love usually came out in a squeal the moment he would see you. And my kids looked forward to hearing his squeal when he walked in the door. So we'll remember the squeal and big squeezes forever. I share lots of memories with Grandpa, and I'll carry them with me forever.
Daddy, I love you. Daddy, I love you. Daddy.
I'm the youngest granddaughter. Wait, no, I'm not. Darn it. I'm Pat's youngest daughter, and I wasn't going to speak, but I saw Clay, and I know how hard it is to get up here, but I had to tell a very inappropriate memory of Grandpa because all of his humor was either super dry or super gross. And I was hoping he'd come up and tell this, but I'm going to for him. I have a million memories, and one of my favorites was when I would stay with him. And I don't know why it sticks out, but he took me to Toys R Us and let me pick out whatever I wanted, and I picked out a giant stuffed panda, and I'll just never forget it. I think I still have it, actually. Anyway, his favorite story to tell anybody, and he told us all a million times, but we'd still listen like it was new, was when he asked Clay what his favorite finger was to pick his nose with. And Clay would think about it to hear, I mean, if you know Grandpa, you can just picture him telling it, and he'd go, it's that one. It's still that one. It's the same one still. So I'll just never forget his favorite story of all time is asking Clay when he was little, every time he saw him, what his favorite finger was to pick his nose with. So that sums Grandpa up perfectly, making everybody laugh and all that. But like I said, I was talking to Drew, and I know he doesn't want to talk, and I get it, so I'll talk for you guys. But all of our memories were it was always together. So I know we hold the same feelings, and going to Grandpa's, and what we always look forward to, playing office and all the office supplies that he would let us go through and take home. And as strict as he was with, Mom and Aunt Barb, I never really felt that. He kind of just let us do whatever we wanted. I know that's part of being a grandparent, but no rules.
No rules.
No, so thank you guys for getting that out of the way, but we got to do whatever, and it always felt like Christmas when we were there. No, never a curfew. Got to watch all the movies we wanted. It was just something we always looked forward to, going over there. And yes, the squeal, I can hear it. And the point, and he'll point when he sees you every time. I'll never get that image out of my head. So, and then my youngest is here, and he had said to me that he wished he knew Grandpa when he was bigger, because he remembers Grandpa when he was, smaller. And I said, and he always felt 10 feet tall to me. I said, I wish you did too, but my boys will always know him. And I've always heard stories, and him and Maddox had a special little bond, and wrote letters. So I'm rambling because I don't know what else to say, because I have a million thoughts in my head about him, but I don't think I can convey it properly. So that's all I want to say is for Clay, I'll remember that forever.
For the record, what finger was
Index. It was the index.
I'm a pretty good public speaker, but when it comes to this stuff, it's challenging. I think the biggest thing for me with Grandpa is he was the person who always brought our entire family together. And so many of me and my cousins have so many good shared memories. I always thought I was the favorite grandkid, to be honest with you, until
You were.
they come up and, he made you feel so important, like you said, Uncle Steve was talking about it. When he talked to you, he was genuinely interested in whatever it was that you were up to, what you were doing, no matter what it was. And like Aaron said, I got so many good memories with Grandpa. I've gotten a lot of presents over the years, but I think Grandpa, he bought me my first drill. I wanted this drill. He always took me to the store. We'd look at different tools and everything. And obviously, when I was little, I wanted to make everything, all kinds of stuff. And it was because of Grandpa. And of course, I had to have this blue drill that Grandpa took me we were looking at. And he ended up buying that for me. And I'll never forget, that was one of the happiest times I've ever had in my entire life, was having that drill, how proud I was at my age to have my own real drill. Because I don't remember how old I was. I had to have been 5, 6, I don't know. And then I told Grandpa I wanted to build a go-kart. So what Grandpa did, he built me a go-kart, you know. It was like they said, whatever he did, he was all in. You know, I just don't write chapters like this to end, but he was such an impact on all of us, and I cherish the memories that I have with, you know, my mom, my aunts, my uncles, Brenda, and her family, and like I said, Grandpa was the guy who always brought us together, and it was because of him we have so many great memories, and it's just crazy how fast time goes, because it just feels like yesterday we were down there, you know. It's just really a strange feeling to be here right now, because I don't think you really ever let it sink in. But again, we're here to celebrate Grandpa, and we all loved him dearly. He was one of the most genuine people I've ever met in my entire life. Like I said, he always made me feel so confident in myself. After I got off the phone with him, I talked to him, and he would just say, God, Clay, you're the best communicator. You're so good at this. I mean, he was just one of the most encouraging people I've ever met in my entire life. And I genuinely had so much confidence because of Grandpa. But he loved his family. You know, you could just tell how happy he was whenever we were there. You know, he was proud of all of us. And like I said, I love my family. I love my cousins, aunts, uncles, everybody. And you know, it's so good to see everybody here. And, you know, it's good to be able to celebrate Grandpa's life. He lived a long life, and you know, I'm just so happy of the life that he did lead. I'm rambling too. It's tough for me to get up here and talk about Grandpa, but it's good to see everybody. And that's about all I got.
After hearing all the stories of the grandchildren, and we were talking about whether Jack ever played any tricks on me like he did other people. And I remember the one that got me with the best. When Melissa and Jennifer were little, we went every other weekend to my hometown, which is 2 hours away from Indianapolis, so they could visit with their dad. And we often made the trip up and back once, so we had weekend time together. One of the trips I was driving, and when we pulled on the 465, he started laughing. And I said, what are you laughing about? He said, do you realize I have not said one word for 2 hours? You did all the talking. And I said, you gotta be kidding me. No, I didn't. You talk. He said, all I said was, and he pulled out a tape recorder from under the closet to prove it to me that I had literally talked the whole way. And another thing I'd like to share is that Jack he was surrounded by girls his entire life. His sister Joanne is here today. His younger sister is deceased. And he had 2 daughters, and he was glad for it because he wasn't a hunter or a fisherman. And when we married, I had 2 daughters, so it was kind of the perfect family for him, 4 girls and a wife. So he was surrounded his entire life by girls that he loved. He was a believer that women can do everything, whatever they set their mind to, and he encouraged all of the women in our family. For his generation, that was something I was really proud of. And I know somewhere he knows that he was carried out of the house by 2 women because the funeral home arrived and the girls opened the door. There were 2 women there, which they mistakenly, being chauvinist, I guess, thought were for the administrative duty. But these were the 2 women who actually carried him out of the house. And I know somewhere he got the biggest chuckle out of that. everybody had shared. Jack liked to laugh, and he wanted you to all come together today to rejoice in food and share some memories. And I'm glad he made an impact on somebody.
There's his classmates here. And we're all glad to be here, but Jack was the youngest. So he's going ahead and light the way for us. One time when they were down to the Corey Church, we were down to the Corey Church, we all went down to the turkey supper. And so I said on the way home, I said, why don't you just go by my house and we'll visit for a while? Well, you know, when you get out in the country at night, it's dark. And we had about 8 miles to go, and Jack followed me. And when we got there, he said, I didn't even think you knew where you lived. But we had a real good visit, and this is his classmates here that will on this.
The nice things about him, I got a Christmas card one time addressed to Mrs. Phillips Gray and the guy she lives with. He thought a lot of the guy did.
Yes, he did.
I'm Jack's cousin, and something I kept on my mind always. When our oldest son, he's 60 years old, when he was just a little tiny, he was very important. And so, one day he was talking to Jack, asking him all kinds of questions. And I got on him. He said, quit asking so many questions. And Jack reprimanded me right there. He said, don't ever tell children to quit asking questions. That just means he's going to be a very intelligent man. And I've just always been that. And he is an intelligent man.
Anyway, Jack was my stepdad, and my kid's Papa Jack. So he's been a very, very important influence in my life. And I know I wouldn't be the person I am now if it wasn't for him. Again, he taught me how to drive. He taught me how to have good manners. He just was the biggest cheerleader of my life. He thought I could do more than I ever believed in myself, but that's what he was like. And it's wonderful to hear all the other stories that, you know, he was like that with everybody that he loved, and he was strict, but he was very loving. The one thing one of the first memories I have of him playing a joke, and I should have known what I was in for, was a bedtime story with my little new stuffed animal, a purple octopus, across on the other side of the bed. And he's telling me this story about how at night, when it's dark, if you're really quiet, the animals, you can hear them. They'll talk, they'll come to life. And we were sitting there, and he said, it's got to be quiet, it's got to be dark, just sit there and stare at the little animal across the bed. We sat there staring, and the next thing I knew, that thing leaped across the room and attacked me. He had secretly gone downstairs and gotten some nylon thread and patted it and then tied it to the leg. It was like this little purple octopus thing. We still have it. You saved all my toys, so I would think. But it leapt across the bedroom at me, and I plastered up against the wall in complete terror. And my mom came running up the steps, so I knew I was in for a lot of fun. So anyway, I know my kids had lots of great memories. He always had fun things to do when we came to visit, because I live in California, so we didn't get to see him as often, but as the other grandkids. But there were always fun things that he did, and they got to build things and make swords out of wood, and I can't even think of all the things they did. So anyway, with good memories.
I'm Sam Emmert, and I knew Jack way back in the early 60s. And I've known him since, but he went moved off to the big city and I didn't get to see him. I've got some crib shoes too. And I love the way that people celebrate the life of a person that you really like. Jack was intensely interested in everybody that he spoke to. When you spoke to him, you knew damn well who he was talking to. And his life, his family, his work was very, very detailed. He was a very disciplined person. When he made something, it wasn't just something, it was exactly something. He made the job interesting. Whatever he was doing, he made it interesting for both you and him. Jack was a friend, a person that would do something for a friend or an absolute stranger if he had to, if he wanted to. If you measured success by the amount of friends, Jack was a very wealthy person. I'm glad that I knew Jack and could call him a friend. Thank you.
My name's David. I'm Melissa's husband. Jack was someone that made me feel real comfortable. 35 years ago, I was brought out here in an airplane to meet him and Brenda, and he made me feel welcome right off the bat and talked my ear off. We talked aviation, we talked all kinds of stuff, and from then on, he's made me feel comfortable. Coming out here to visit, and I remember when Clay and the grandkids were there for Christmas, and he loved to get the boxes in the middle and everybody roll around and fight. That old pig iron over here, still love that name. And everybody else, but I just want to say we're going to miss him. It won't be the same, but it will be the same. Thank you.
So Grandpa had some favorite foods, and we're going to share in a meal together over here. Enjoy the food, enjoy each other's company, and if you didn't take time to come up here, then share with Brenda and all the girls, because we're here to celebrate them as well.